All right, we have Charles Kupchan ready to join us now. When I say Council on Foreign Relations, you know he's big time, Celeste.
Yeah, when you hear Chuck, he's here.
There
he's
you
big,
are.
Big time.
So he's also a professor at Georgetown. Professor, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you guys.
All right, let's talk about the newest developments, some reporting today. Nobody's saying, I don't think, that Pete Hegseth is being sidelined, but it does sound as though the president is listening more and more to Scott Bessent when it comes to planning the next phase of the conflict with Iran.
You know, I think it kind of changes on a day-to-day basis in the sense that Trump is heavily influenced by the last person that talks to him. But I think that Hegseth, even though he's in the inner circle, has not had the same leverage that J.D. Vance has had, that Marco Rubio has had, in part because of proximity, right? Rubio and Vance, Bessent in some cases, they're in the White House. Hegseth is traveling around the world. He's at the Pentagon. He doesn't have the same proximity. But I do think it's going to change on a day-to-day basis. And also, we're picking up some reporting that the president is a bit miffed at Hegseth for not giving him more warning about the low stockpiles that the Pentagon faces because of the number of munitions that they have used trying to fight this war against Iran.
Well, I don't think anybody's ever going to admit if we're having a problem like that. I mean, why would you want to telegraph that kind of information to your enemy? But have you, I know you're based there in Washington, are you seeing maybe some credible reporting that some of those some of those reports about the overall question of stockpiles might be legit?
Yeah, nobody knows in the public domain what the exact numbers are. But we know, for example, that the U.S. has the ability to produce about 600 Patriot interceptors a year. Patriot interceptors are the only real air defense system that can take out an incoming ballistic missile. And 600 is not a lot. We've used, I think, at least 1,000, maybe more in the Gulf. Ukraine has been using them. And one of the best tests as to whether we're low on them is that Ukraine is getting hit on a nightly basis by Russian ballistic missiles. And we and the Europeans and others aren't giving them any Patriots because there aren't any there. So yes, stockpiles are low. How low? Difficult to say. Would this interfere with the U.S. ability to conduct an operation in another theater? Perhaps. But that's, I think, one of the reasons that the Pentagon is saying, hey, let's think twice before going back to the battleground with Iran.
I want to read this because you have a pretty impressive resume from 2014 to 2017. Professor, you served as a special assistant to the president and a senior director for European affairs on the staff of the National Security Council in the Barack Obama administration. Also served in Bill Clinton's first administration as well on European affairs. I think as Americans, we're a little selfish in that we want to see our gas prices go down. We want to see our grocery prices go down. In your expert opinion, when you think about everything happening overseas, what needs to happen? What needs to be done? What type of negotiations? And maybe they're already being done behind closed doors in D.C. and we don't even know what's going on.
Well, in some ways, I think President Trump and the America First agenda headed in the right direction, in the sense that I think many Americans felt that the United States had overreached abroad in Afghanistan, in Iraq, trying to knock off the regime in Syria, intervention in Libya. This didn't work very well. Then you have many Americans feeling that they are witnessing a decline in their quality of life. And Trump said, hey, I hear you. Too many people have been left behind by globalization. I'm going to help you with this problem. But I do think that in some ways, Trump's response to these real concerns has gone off course, in the sense that he said, no more wars, I'm going to stop wars, not start them, and then he starts a new war with Iran. His protectionist measures have, at least from my perspective, led to affordability crisis getting worse, not better. We're not seeing a lot of manufacturing jobs come back. So he's asking the right questions, but I do think that his policies aren't leading to the outcomes that he promised. And so in that respect, I do think we need to have a conversation about how can we figure out what level of American engagement in the world is consistent with what the public wants. How can we get working Americans back up on their feet and ensure that they're earning a living wage? Those, I think, are questions that many voters have at the front of their mind.
Hey, do you have any books you've recently produced, or if people want to find out more about you, what should they do?
You know, I have a book coming out in a couple of months. It's called Bringing Order to Anarchy, and it really addresses two questions. How did we get into this mess, and what do we do now? So anybody who's interested in those, there's a book coming out in October.
Yeah, you got to have a concept that people can really latch on
Well,
to.
and I think it's probably something that every household needs, because you get home and you got a messy house and kids running everywhere. And how do we get into this mess? How do we get out?
Professor, thanks. We'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Thank you, Charles.